Welcome back to All Again, and in this episode, we are going to be reviewing the movie that we saw only last week, Becoming Led Zeppelin. We all went to the cinema, we got our popcorn, we got our Diet Coke, and we had a good watch of this movie for just under 2 hours, I think it was. So we didn't get much of a chance to talk about it after the movie, guys, because we were all splitting in our own directions. But what did you think of it? I suppose start with you, Eric.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love a good rockumentary. It was a fantastic watch. It's great to see how the band came together, really, and how they rose to their popularity. So it's just a fantastic watch. Great to see some of the interviews, particularly the segments in there of John Bonham. There's not a lot of material out there of him, given the because of the age he died at, but some of the stuff that he does talk about and is very entertaining. It's just fantastic. I learned an awful lot about the band. Particularly, I actually didn't know that John Paul Jones and Robert Plant were both session musicians on the Bond song Goldfinger. And
Yeah,
they're playing that. I didn't know that, and I was like, geez, it's great to learn those things, but you can really see how they honed their craft. So yeah, fantastic watch from me. I'd recommend it.
for sure. And Marcus, would you be of the same opinion?
Yeah, I totally love rock documentaries. I That was 2 hours, and I probably could have sat for another hour, and only covered the time space that they were covering. I I really enjoyed it. The thing I liked really most about it was hearing John Bonham's voice and the way they portrayed John Bonham in the sense of giving him as much space as the other guys in what was probably very limited material. And I thought he came in because it's all vocals with him as opposed to moving pictures, and I thought it was used really well. I thought it was very respectful, and it was fantastic. It was really nice to hear what he had to say.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's
but
like
you're
this
right.
was, yeah, I suppose this was the first authorized documentary from Led Zeppelin by the band. So like we've never seen
Yeah.
anything like this before, pretty groundbreaking. And as the title suggests, Becoming Led Zeppelin, like I had a feeling they're going to focus on the early years here. The formation of the band and the first few albums. I didn't know how far it would go through their career. But yeah, like I have to say, I was thinking about it after seeing the movie, and yeah, I was very impressed with it, to be honest. Not to ruin it on anyone going, but I suppose they start off from the very start when Led Zeppelin were children in the growing up in their own sort of environment and how they were exposed to music and the different types of music and the early bands that they would have been involved in their early teenage years. And then it brings it right up to, as you say, Eric, Jimmy Page and John Paul Jones. They were on the circuit in London doing studio work. And of course, Jimmy had a stint in the Yardbirds and liked the taste of rock and roll. He played on a couple of albums by The Who and the Kinks, I think, as well. John Paul Jones had obviously a lot of studio work as well that he was getting called back for as well. And the fact that he could read sheet music and he could orchestrate and arrange music meant he
Yeah.
was a very sought after musician
Yeah.
and arranger on the scene. So the two lads were working away in London, and then obviously up in the Black Country or in the Midlands, you had a little bit different Robert Plant, in and out of bands and very much a hippie vibe. And you've said that before, Eric, about Robert Plant. Like that's definitely
Yeah.
where he came from. Like I,
Oh,
I didn't
absolutely.
realize he was so big into that world.
Yeah, yeah. You can see it before he was even in Led Zeppelin. He was in his own band and they're like out like doing protest marches for like, flower power, peace on earth and all this. And he like to get like all of them, they're all their own characters.
Yeah,
They're all mad in their own way or very creative individuals. And obviously when you put them all in a room together, it was explosive. What was the song? Train Kept It Rolling. They all met up and they were just jamming that song and they're all just like, yeah, this is it. Like this is a proper
Yeah.
band. They
that's
knew it
right.
straight away.
Yeah,
But it's even like Robert Plant said a number of times in it that his dream was America. So
yeah,
it's no wonder he was into that sort of scene because at that time it was all flower power and coming to the mid to late 60s. And he probably was going, I'm living in black and white, grey, sort of
Yeah.
Birmingham. I
Yeah,
want to go to colourful,
yeah,
Technicolor America. And he's
absolutely, yeah.
probably just dying to experience that sort of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah. Really cool. I
Because
love the
even John Bonham's wife was saying stay away from Robert Plant. He's no good
yeah,
for you. To stay,
Yeah.
So I think at the time he was actually carving his own path because obviously he stuck out. He wasn't the same as all the other guys. When you consider in the mid 60s, it was like wearing a shirt and tie and on stage, all kind of dressed the same, playing and stuff.
Yeah.
So he must have looked odd. He must have stuck out going, who's this guy?
Yeah.
yeah,
Very much.
definitely.
And so John Bonham had gigs with cover bands, like
Yeah.
wedding bands and show bands and
Yeah,
whatever else. And he obviously had a wife and a child and commitments earlier than the other members. And yeah, as you were saying, like Marcus, Robert Plant was leading him down the garden path, I suppose, on this thing.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting how Jimmy originally like saw Robert sing and was like, right, that's we're going to build the band around me and him. And then Robert's like, okay, well, bring in
I know.
Bonzo then on drums because he's brilliant.
Yeah.
And
He
then
was like, stop right there. I know a drummer. There's nobody better. And
yeah,
Jesus Christ was he right. Like, you know what I
oh
mean? Like
yeah.
something that like that's he saw talent, in John Bonham there. Like,
And then it was actually John Paul Jones' wife who convinced him to call Jimmy, that Jimmy was putting a band together. We're
so
probably
yeah,
spoiling this for everyone, but I'm sure people will have seen the movie by this time if they're looking at this review. But yeah, like it was his wife who encouraged him to, reach out to Jimmy, and then Jimmy was just like, ah, yeah, yeah, we're starting a band. Do you want to join? Very nonchalantly, and that's
yeah,
John Paul Jones. Like, there's a big
Yeah.
question mark on whether Led Zeppelin would have succeeded if they didn't have John Paul Jones in the band. He was
Oh, there was so many
instrumental.
times when it could have went wrong. So many
Yeah,
moments where it just could have went wrong. Like
absolutely.
could you imagine like being in a wedding band and John Bonham is your drummer? Could you imagine
I
that
know.
experience?
yeah,
And but he was earning 40 at that time. I think they were saying 40 quid a week. That was good money for him. It was sure
Paying
money,
paying the bills.
paying the bills. And it's even like a wedding band now. Like if you're in a wedding band now, you can make something of a living that you wouldn't make in an originals band starting off.
oh yeah,
So like for him to go, okay, I'm going to go down and give this a go. There's so many times it mightn't have happened, and
yeah.
it's gas.
What wasn't the way they got him in? They offered to like subsidize that they all the band
Well,
together chipped in, and they're like,
which is
oh wait,
saying something. Yeah, it's
yeah,
saying something.
they
Like here's a
really
nobody.
want him in the band, and they're willing to pay to have on him there.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's right, Eric. Yeah.
that's
And
very
then
impressive. That's saying a lot. That is.
they were so as you were saying, Eric, they played Train Kept a Rolling, and they were playing that for ages in the room because
Going
it
on
was
into different segments of solo. Everybody has solo, and they're
yeah,
just this is the vibe we want. This is what we want to do live, and you could
yeah.
really see that honing that craft that they had, that Led Zeppelin sound.
So Jimmy had the new Yardbirds. They were kind of playing under that moniker at the time, and he had a couple of gigs left to complete under contract. And he was the only member left, so he formed the new Led Zeppelin group and called them the new Yardbirds. And they had to play some gigs in Scandinavia. I'm not sure what city now, but
No, is it I don't know
Can't
if it's
remember.
was it
Norway or something.
Copenhagen or Stockholm? I can't remember now. But like Marcus, you had mentioned before that you love that gig. You've seen that gig many
Yes.
times over the years. I'm the same
Yeah.
myself. I used to have that parts of that gig on DVD. It's just
Yeah.
phenomenal. Like Bonham is such a small kit. It's very humble what they have on stage, but they
Yeah.
sounded amazing.
And it's raw. They're still finding their feet with each other, and it's just amazing. It's a snapshot of history, a wonderful snapshot of history, I think, and the
Yeah,
beginning of greatness.
Yeah.
It's
What,
fantastic.
what I found mad was obviously they went in, they funded the album, and they
yeah,
went and they toured America, and they were a huge hit in America. And then they came back to London. They're playing in London, but everyone's like sitting in like, what's it, the round? And was it the round? Was it? Um, they didn't quite make it to the Royal Albert Hall. I think it was the round. But like you see people in the audience are all sitting there like this, it's too loud for
that's
me,
right.
And then like fast forward a year later, they're playing Royal Albert Hall, everyone's screaming and going, "Oh, we love this band." It's
Yeah.
amazing, like those humble beginnings.
Yeah, it happens. It happens to a lot of
Yeah,
bands. They don't get appreciated in their own country, and then
yeah,
they go, they're either from America and they don't get appreciated there, and they make it in the UK, or vice versa. There's
Yeah.
so many examples of that over the years. But yeah, like they did. One thing I had mentioned to you guys after the movie was I was a little bit disappointed that there was so much music in it. Now that sounds a bit strange when you're going to see a music documentary, but
mm,
I thought what they did was they played like the full versions of songs and live versions, or sometimes they just put the studio version in with stills and stuff. But I have to say some of the live performances that were on it, particularly from that gig in Scandinavia, they whatever they did, they remixed them, so they were able to strip back all the master tapes and remix them, and it sounded absolutely fantastic. Like I can't wait to get that on DVD, stick it through the hi-fi and crank it, because I think the
yeah,
sound is
Fair to
going to be
Elaine.
amazing.
yeah, yeah. It was great in the cinema now to experience that. It was, yeah, you could really notice that.
Yeah, 11, Eric. Yeah,
Yeah,
Magic number.
think there's a Spinal Tap movie coming out shortly, is there?
yeah,
Yeah,
I
number
believe
two, man.
so.
We'll have to go see that. So anyway, yeah, takes Led Zeppelin across America numerous times, and they were huge over there. And then writing Led Zeppelin 2 on the road, recording that in various studios throughout the States, unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like in a way, because of the way they done the first album, and there's a lot of stuff borrowed on the first album. It's almost as if the second album is their first album. It's their first
Yeah,
representation, true representation of themselves.
Yeah.
Where it goes to show, like at that stage, they were just a year old as a band,
yeah,
so
Yeah. The album
they were still finding
and
out about each other.
an
They're still,
American tour.
yeah, they just trying to find out who they were who they were going to be as a band as well. Like so the second album could nearly be seen as the first album where they identify as themselves.
yeah. I certainly think we actually reviewed the first album, myself and Eric, and I did feel there was a lot of material on the first album that probably didn't need to be there. It was just filler to get the first album out there.
Yeah,
But there's some, like, um, Good Times, Bad Times, and Dazed and Confused, and all that good stuff. Communication Breakdown. They're all classics. Like, but
yeah,
Yeah.
it's some of the other stuff, covers and stuff like that. I just felt maybe we were lacking a bit. But I suppose the end of the movie, then it takes you right up to them getting their first gold record and playing the Royal Albert Hall, and that's where it ends, and like there's so many more parts to the Led Zeppelin story, but yeah, look, I think it was a great movie, to be honest. I know at the time I was saying maybe there was a bit too much music videos and stuff like this thrown in, but I honestly it was really, really well done. And the archive footage that they had, loads of photographs and video that I'd never seen before,
yeah,
and loads, and obviously the John Bonham recordings, interviews, they were all cleaned up as well, and sounded immense. And as you said, Marcus, like watching the Led Zeppelin members listen to John Bonham possibly for the first time, and then welling
yeah,
up, it
yeah.
was great to see that.
Yeah, for them it was a first time experience and not just with John Bonham. I think there was one where they were playing some gig outside, and Jimmy Page goes, "I've only seen stills of this. I haven't seen actual
Yeah,
video footage of this."
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah,
They
you're
done.
nearly in real time with them.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
It was really well done and really well put together. But yeah, look, guys, if you're Led Zeppelin fans out there and you haven't seen this movie and it's still in the cinemas, get out and watch it,
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
amazing.
absolutely.
It's amazing on the big screen with the big speakers.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
Exactly.
agree.
Class one. Highly recommend it.
And if you have seen it, let us know what you think of it in the comments, guys. And if you like the video, hit the like, hit subscribe, and we're going to be getting Marcus and Eric back for plenty more Led Zeppelin chat over the next few weeks. So stay tuned for that. And I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye for now.
See ya.